Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with Bill Stierle. And, Bill, it's interesting. I have a weekly discussion with friends I've been friends with for, I hate to even think now, over 40 years, a long time.
Sure.
And tells you how old I am. But the reality is there's a lot of, I think, concern, if not outright fear, about what's going to happen after Election Day. Mm-hmm. And I find some people I know who are not supporters of Trump are fearful. They don't want to get feeling good about the election, that it's likely that Biden will win, but they think even if Biden wins, they're not going to believe that Trump's going to leave the White House until they get to January 20th and there's an actual inauguration of Biden. They don't want to have hope almost because they don't want to be disappointed if it doesn't happen.
Sure. There's a little preemptive emotional safety there that people create for themselves. Yeah,
and there's another interesting thing. There was sort of these two polar opposite concerns. One, a friend who, is fearful that if Biden wins, that the militias are going to come out, like the ones that were, going to try to kidnap Michigan Governor Whitmer are going to come out and, wreak havoc. And there was a similar fear of someone with an opposing view that if Trump wins, that, there's going to be riots in the streets that make the Black Lives Matter protests of recent months look like a campfire. So, right. It's very interesting that I think a lot of America is not feeling very good right now. So,
welcome to Bill Stierle's world of dealing with conflict. So all the people, as those of you who have listened or are on listening and have been listened to this show, that we take on difficult things, and there's a certain practice to stepping in and through worst case scenarios that show up in our world. How do you have compassion and empathy for people when Trump wins? There's anger and furiousness that he won. Or when Biden wins, there's anger, furious, doubtful, and skepticism that Biden won. And the body has been activated in such a way that there is such a strong emotional experience that violence could show up. And violence could be taking out from one American to another American. And then this person that has done this thing, shot somebody, killed somebody, has to now face the same thing that the young man that was the shooter up in Wisconsin has to face. He's in jail or wherever he is, and he's waiting trial for double murder charges for shooting people in the street, and attempted murder for the third person, right? So he's thinking he's in a place of a person that is a young man that has a personal empowerment charge to him. To the president gave him the command, not directly but passively, not actively, but with that certain permission. So his need for respect and his need for self-worth is being met by shooting people on the street. That's what compassion looks like. Now we shake our head and go like, well, it really wasn't, but for him it was. And the problem with the militias, for them it is, I'm fighting for America. I mean, you had to almost like take a breath and take a gulp at like for them, it's about restoration. We're going to kidnap this governor to restore government to the people. There was like no end game in that. It's like, did you like think about how this is going to play out in the court? And did you think about, what holding somebody hostage or kidnapping somebody might do to the experience? And their fantasy was, well, Trump is so with us, he'll pardon us. Look at how he's pardoned all these people already. Usually pardoning takes place at the end of a presidency. It doesn't take place at the beginning. And so he broke norms by starting pardoning people right away. That's not the thing you want to work on at the beginning. You got to establish your presidency. And the answer is no, I just want to do what the thing is at the top of my mind. I am going to set injustices right. And then I'm going to pivot to this other thing over here. I'm going to go over here. And then meanwhile, the rest of us on a gerbil wheel, like the second mouse that happened to jump on because they thought it'd be a good idea. And then just getting swung around by the first mouse.
Wow. Well, Bill, how do we deal with all these feelings of anxiousness and, uncertainty, fear of what's going to happen here? We've got to live through a few more weeks at least, if not, 5 or 6 before it's determined. And even if it's determined, that's where a lot of this conflict may happen. How can we cope with this?
Well, we are working on a place that is potentially scary, but it's also we're working on, and we have to deal with the feeling of numb. We're feeling numb about it, numb and scared. And there's one thing that we are really sensitive to is that when our need for truth isn't met, we feel doubtful. When our need for trust isn't met, we feel skeptical. The way this experience is going is not just truth and trust are being pushed, but when our need for safety is being met, we'll feel hesitant, anxious, scared about the need for safety not being met pre and post election. Now, this is going to be, I would be surprised if this sentence wasn't true, but this will be the largest voting election ever. I have some sense of certainty by saying that this is going to be the largest number of voters that show up at the polls ever, percentage-wise, for sure.
I tend to believe the same thing, Bill. Yes.
We've been lucky, to get 50% of people to vote. I would like to think that 70% will show up. Only 30% will stay home. I'd like to think that 80% will show up and 20% stays home. But that is what I don't know. But I do know it's going to be the largest, but it might not be like that large. So let's you and I do a little friendly wager for $1.
Okay.
Do you think it's going to be 60%, 70%, 80% of the 300 and some million people of America will come out to vote? Because a certain percentage of that is kids. So
yeah, no, I don't know how much.
The voting.
I'll try to find out how many people are registered to vote.
Right.
Do you want to do this based on a percentage of registered
just percentages?
voters,
Yeah,
or a percentage of
registered
people
voters
that are old enough to vote but may not have registered?
I'm just going to go with the registered voters. I think I'm going to there. The ones that haven't gotten out of the cheap seats and did their civic duty. Well, we already know that they're not even taking the step to get on the court to vote. So the chances of them working through it would be low. I think I'm going to go that I'm going to be optimistic and say around 70% is going to vote. That's
Okay.
my best optimism. So you get to either go high or low. So I'm going to allow you to do high or low to get the buck.
Okay. Oh, so you mean I can, yeah. It's just like The Price is Right, where if you bid $1, anything between there and that, or you have to bid above and whatever above. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I looked up while you were saying that, Bill, that as of 2018, there were 153 million people registered to vote in the United States. Now, I think there's been probably a significant increase in registered voters since
153 million.
2018.
Wow.
It's probably been a significant increase. I don't have anything projecting yet how many voters there will be in 2020. But I'm going to keep looking at that as we're talking here. But I'm going to say this, Bill. I agree with you. There's going to be a record turnout this election. Right. I haven't done a lot of study or research on this, so I don't have any frame of reference to base it on. But I'll tell you what we've seen already with the states that have early voting is people showing up in such large numbers to vote, even on the first days. I mean, weeks ahead of election day, there are people lined up all day long to vote. They recognize this is an important election and want the vote to count. So I'm going to say that I think that the percentage of registered voters that are going to vote is going to tip over the 80% mark. I think that it's going to be higher. I hope I'm right. But
yeah, me too.
The interesting thing, Bill, is recently I had an opportunity to have a very long, it was like an hour-long discussion with a husband and wife couple in Australia. Oh, right. And that was a very interesting conversation. And there are many things we could talk about that, which I don't want to take the time to do today. But they kept asking me lots of questions about our government and our politics. And they just genuinely were curious, and they don't understand how we all think and act. And that's maybe a story for another time. But one of the things that came out of that is they didn't understand why more Americans don't vote. Because you have the right to vote. Why doesn't everybody vote? And they actually wondered, why isn't it required for Americans to vote? Because in Australia, it's, as they say, compulsory.
Wow.
In Australia.
You got to weigh in, man. You got to say. If you
are a citizen of Australia of a certain age, you must vote.
Wow.
And that struck me as a little odd because I think, in America, we cherish our freedoms, our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom of choice. And I think along with that comes the freedom to exercise your right to not vote. I mean, I think to me, it makes logical sense why we don't require people to vote. But regardless, we don't require people to vote. So there is going to be a percentage of registered voters. And I'm going to say at the end of the day, it's going to tick over 80% of registered voters.
Registered voters. Yeah. And with the early voting, with the things there's a lot of speculation that comes with that. The need for trust in the vote, the number of people that do vote is it's kind of like a head shaker, right? All right. So let's get back to the violence piece, because I think that the violent piece is really, really important for us. See, if Trump wins, what is protests going to look like? What's that protest look like? If Biden wins, what does the protest look like? Now, here's the way to think about it. Whenever I'm going into the worst case scenario, I prepare myself under two specific things. What language needs to be spoken towards both groups of disenfranchised people? What needs to be said by Republican leaders after Trump has lost? Do they jump off the rat ship early and go like, hey, the president lost in my state. We're not going to do a recount of this state. If a senator does that, a Republican senator does that, that'll send this course or the permission for others to do that.
So, interestingly, Bill, what the scenario under which I think that's most likely to happen. Imagine this scenario. Biden wins the presidential election. Trump is casting doubt on that, crawling, trying to claw his way to hang on to power.
Right.
Mitch McConnell has lost his Senate seat. So this is a scenario I'm putting out, right? A hypothesis. Mitch McConnell lost his seat. So he is on his way out, regardless of whether Republicans have maintained control of the Senate or not. Let's just assume for a moment, right, Mitch McConnell is lost. The Republican senator or senators that will speak up to try to get Trump to go to accept defeat and go quietly are going to be the ones that are jockeying to be the leadership of the new Republican Party that's left in the ashes here, right?
Right.
It's going to be those ambitious Republicans who, yes, they want to try to turn the page on the Trump era.
And they can do it compassionately. It doesn't have to be, get out of here, buddy, or any other labels or names. They can do it very compassionately and respectfully. It sounds like this. It sounds like, from the numbers that we're currently seeing, President Trump does not have enough votes to carry this state. He feels doubtful and skeptical about trusting the results. I feel confident about trusting the results. He may want to be president. This state did not vote for him to be president. So there's no need to recount these votes because I trust the people of this state to count the votes correctly. Notice what the senator did is just got respect and loyalty to say, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I'm just going to stay with what my people say. Now, he might call me any kinds of names. Now, this is where they can cut off his rhetoric, by the way. He might call me names. He might point it out. He might call me weak. He might call me not confident. But really, to be honest with you, the people that voted for me in this state really actually want to see that I can stand up and stand for them. Now, all of a sudden, he's flailing over here, just like a bully that's being ignored. He's flailing over here, but you're doing it in a respectful, compassionate way. You're not railing on and getting stuck with, this way or that way. You're just going like, I'm just going to go with what the numbers are telling me right now. I'm just going to stay with trusting the people of this state, the great state of whatever.
That the people have spoken, right?
The people have spoken, and they've spoken in a way that says that the president is not voted by this state. And I'm feeling a great deal of confidence that the electorate will follow what the people of this state have mandated. Now, all of a sudden, that governor or that senator or that congressman has gotten a lot of cover because all he's got to do is say, well, I already said it. I said, I'm going with the people. I'm not going with the president. I'm going with the people. And I'm going to trust my poll workers rather than, going into the speculation that he keeps creating. And he may call me some names about that. He might say that I'm breaking ranks from the party. Well, actually, I'm not breaking ranks from the party. What the Republican Party stands for is, and literally they can launch themselves into a new leadership narrative. And say, I can take the heat. Who would like to talk badly about me? Because I'm going to trust what the poll takers and the voters have going for, because I know as a Republican that's going to be running again in 2 years, I'm going to need their damn votes because this guy is going to be gone or whatever, or even if he is in there, I'll resign or what, in other words, they're going to take the high road finally, to pick an integrity piece.
Well, I agree with you that senators are more likely to do that. Some senators are more likely to do that, but who we know is not going to take the high road is Trump.
Trump and Pence will not take the high road.
So, you talk about the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing if we want to prepare ourselves, what's the worst thing that Trump could say?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I actually started brainstorming on this issue, and you and I started working on collecting possible sentences. It's time for real Americans to rise up.
Ouch.
Now, the problem with the sentence is you're not telling them to do anything. So you're leaving that up to them with their own mindset about what the word rise up means. Who are they going to act out on? Non-real Americans? And what subjective piece do they have to do for non-Americans? Who is going to get hurt or experience death because of that simple, tragic sentence?
Boy.
Joe Biden needs to have a counter sentence to that sentence ready in the queue to launch at a greater things. Americans, it's time for us to come together and to cooperate and collaborate as this nation moves forward. He has to set a visionary sentence to counter the destructive sentence that I just mentioned. Well, he might not say that, but he has said things similar to that in the past. So that is something, a sentence I need to be ready for. Language preparation is what they say to have ready for debates. But I want to share with you, Tom, there wasn't the preparation was not done well enough in either of the debates. I was really kind of dissatisfied with both parties being able to talk and just keep telling the same talking points over and over again. And it's not like, Kamala Harris didn't know what he was going to say. I mean, he's only been saying it for 4 or 5 years already. Same stuff. That trust the president, this. And she didn't have a better compassionate sentence to that sentence ready to go. Say this back to me. Bill, you feel irritated.
Bill, you feel irritated, don't you?
Those people don't have skill.
Yeah, they don't have skill.
They don't.
The thing is, and it doesn't surprise me about Kamala Harris, quite honestly, because her nature as a prosecutor is really not all that inherently compassionate, is it?
No, it is not. So that's a great catch there, is that her education and training in communicating is argue with somebody that is presenting an alternate truth and keep going after facts and information until they agree with you. Well, she's really more truthful. But really, actually, the way it needs to go, and you and I have talked about this only 50 times, when you become compassionate to the person that is feeding us BS, actually the truth comes to you faster. You actually get the truth faster. Oh, this person's really talking about protection. Well, if he's talking about protection, he's not talking about the issue.
Yeah, who's more compassionate in the two is clearly Joe Biden. I think he does speak with more compassion in general in setting his vision and things like that. But
yes,
I think Biden could, step on a few landmines of his own if he says the wrong thing, couldn't he?
Yes, he could. One of his tragic sentences, it says he needs to leave now, or he's fired, and it will infuriate the people that are loyal and say, he's not fired, you're never going to get the job. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're not letting you come because we've already put you in the box of communism. That gives us the right to hurt, injure, or any one of the people that we deem has voted for you. Very unsettling time. His compassionate sentence says that, so it might be saying, well, the president is feeling uncomfortable with the way the votes are currently, and he is struggling to trust the poll takers and the workers and the people that are accountable, because it's really important to have good accounting, and the president is not trusting the accounting as of yet to really show that I have more votes and that they're legal votes, that they're registered votes, and they're votes that count, and that I happen to get more in this state than he did. Notice how even my voice is, by the way, Tom. See, Joe doesn't have the even voice that I do because he's not grounded on a need. He's just trying to, he's going like, logically, this guy should leave. And the answer is, we haven't been in logical land for 4 years, dude. I mean, it's like, and a lot of times, even Republicans will say, what is he doing? That's the worst thing he can do ever. But all he's doing is just coming down the narrative of what a person that wants it his way and has ran on that premise. I want it done my way. So this is a topic you and I can do on our next session, Tom, because there's so many different tragic things to get ready for, because we've not only got to get ready for between now and the election, but we also need to get ready for all the things that are going to be said and done between November 4th and January 20th. We got to get ready for the different tragic things that are going to come up. This is the worst case scenario for either Biden winning or Trump winning. I'm being completely agnostic here. I don't have to pick. I do have one that meets more of my values than the other one does, but I'm just like a regular American. They want to vote. My sister wants to vote the way she wants to vote. She's going to vote for Trump because there's a primary value she believes that he can get for him around abortion and right to birth. That's what she'd like people to have and do.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, no, I think I look forward to talking more about the worst case scenario, because I think we need to be prepared. And if we can hopefully get anybody from the Biden campaign to listen, we can help them prepare a little bit.
I think so. I think Truth and the Worst Case Scenario Part 2 is coming up.
All right. That sounds good.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom. This has been great.
Bill. Yep.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.